I put certain things in the physical abuse category that other people would put in the verbal or psychological abuse category because they involve deliberately making her think that she's going to physically get harmed.
I think a form of physical abuse that does not get talked about nearly enough is sleep deprivation because, of course, it's not the same as, physical violence. It is actually a deprivation of a basic need rather than inflicting harm on another person.
I would never hurt you. I can't believe you think that of me. Sorry, I just get a little scared sometimes when you start getting angry. Could you talk to your therapist about this? Like, I just can't be with someone that's constantly flinching every time I'm around.
For my good brothers out there that may, reflexively want to respond in this way, where it's like your feelings are more important than her safety, or you making her feel safe, you should take a second and re-examine the situation and try to have some empathy. I want to talk about this because I run into a lot of men who don't, or maybe they do, but they tend to say, or they tend to give off the impression that they don't know what abuse is, right? And when you say abuse, they always go, "Oh, nobody talking about hitting nobody." And I'm like, there are many forms of abuse. And I talk about abuse a lot on this channel because it happens a lot. It affects like most women. So when I'm having these conversations with these men, they're like very adamant, vehemently opposed to being labeled as an abuser or saying anything they do is abusive. And even if we're talking about physical violence, because they are always like, I'm not physically violent. Like, I've never hit a woman and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, right? Like, I can believe that most men haven't hit a woman. I can believe that, right? And even and I say I can believe that because I think so many women get hit, you know what I'm saying, by men. It's hard for me to believe that a significant amount, aren't hitting women, you know what I'm saying? So, but I do believe that, that there are men who've never hit a woman and won't, and whatever. But there's so much more to abuse. There's so many layers to it. And men especially don't take any time to talk about it or think about it because they don't want to. They don't want to put that mirror up to their face and have to deal with the fact that possibly they are abusive, have been abusive, or can be abusive. But that's what we're going to do here. We're going to put the mirror up.
I put certain things in the physical abuse category that other people would put in the verbal or psychological abuse category because they involve deliberately making her think that she's going to physically get harmed. So if I say I'm going to kill you, that to me is physical violence. That's not verbal. It is also verbally abusive, but I wouldn't put it in the verbal abuse category because I'm deliberately using it to put you in physical fear.
So if something like blocking a door,
Physical
refusing
abuse.
to leave.
Physical abuse. Pinning, which is a very common thing that abusers use. They'll what do they call it? Restraining, which I don't like that word because it's pinning.
Right.
You're talking about pinning the person. Those are violent acts.
Yeah.
And we live in the United States, we live in an extremely violent society. So people don't even think of something as violence until it becomes so violent. And I'm not talking about what people call.
Also, we live in an extremely abusive society, and that's why people don't think abuse is anything but beating somebody black and blue, right? That's really where it comes from, because our society just normalizes abuse so much to the point to where it's like, you mean telling me that cheating on a woman is abusive? Yeah. You mean telling me lying is abusive? Yeah, that's abusive. It's just par for the course, though, in our society, especially as it pertains to men.
Verbal violence, I don't even like that term, honestly. That would be a whole other discussion. I'm talking about clear, physical, harming the person through their physical body. Pinning them is an assault and battery. It's very oppressive. Locking someone in a room, blocking a doorway. Those are which is effectively imprisoning.
Yes.
Like these things get called a lot of things that they're not. But you're imprisoning the person or you're pinning them. That's assault and battery. You're taking power. You're taking their rights away from them. And so that any verbal behavior that's designed to cause physical fear, and that means also all kinds of physical behavior that doesn't get defined as violence. Punching a wall. It's like, well, the whole point of punching a wall is to get the message across. It could be you the next time.
Yes, exactly. And so there's so many things, like when you look at it through that lens, there are so many things that we could consider to be physical violence. I think yelling, like now that I'm thinking about what he said, like if if you make the person fear for their life or their, you make them feel for their personhood, like their body, their safety, then it could be considered or should be considered physical violence, right? So he said like punching a wall, you could be next. But also like I'm not saying like raise the voices yelling. I'm talking about like "Ah," like yeah, I've seen that before, like men like yelling in women's faces. I think that's physical violence. Because what else is she to think? But this motherfucker might try to do something crazy to me, you know, snatching her phone, snatching her phone. Like I like the other day I did something and I was like, I had to like think about it. I was like, that's weird. Like just even like I don't think this is physical violence, obviously, but I'm saying like even for me, like I was like, oh, like you don't want to do that. Like me and my wife were like close, and I remember like I like touched her to like stop her from doing something. I was like, don't do that, or like something like that. Like you know what I mean? Like you should like I don't know. It's just like it's not obviously it's not fucking whatever, but like why even make somebody feel for 1 second that they have to worry about you harming them physically. You know what I mean? Like I just like I don't want to do that. Like I don't ever want my wife to ever believe or think like, like I'm gonna physically harm her. You know what I'm saying? Like so whatever. So even like I said, it could just be like a touch, like don't do that. You know, I know a lot of people would do, you know what I mean? Like, but I don't care. Like for me, I'm hyper aware of stuff like that. Like I don't want my wife to live in fear of me in any way, shape, or form. So I clocked that. I was like, all right, don't do that again. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, unless it's like, hey, stop. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't drop it. You know what I mean? Or something to stop something bad from something worse from happening. Okay, but yeah, like, why? Why do you need to do that? She does it to me or whatever. It's whatever. Like, she can do it to me. But like, I'm not doing that to her anymore, right? And I like rarely do it. But when I did it, I like caught. I was like, that's weird. Maybe because I almost like never do it. But yeah. Anyways, I think that that's like weird. Like I think that are very I think men are very intentional about like they want their women to know that they're dangerous. They're a danger to them without saying it at all in a lot of cases. But they want the women to know because they want to keep the woman in check. And the more a woman is like independent or starts to, especially when the women start to like clock the men shit, that's when that, it goes up and it intensifies. You know what I'm saying? So I think as men, we got to be hyper aware of like everything that we do around women, especially when it comes to like the threat of physical violence against a woman. Like like you just have to be on it more, and more. It's just like so many examples of this that I wouldn't have thought of. But when you think of it, you're like, no, that makes a lot of sense. This is crazy, but I'll talk about it then.
I think a form of physical abuse that does not get talked about nearly enough is sleep deprivation because, of course, it's not the same as, physical violence. It is actually a deprivation of a basic need rather than inflicting harm on another person. But
I mean, starving a person to me would be physical violence too. So sleep deprivation, I could completely see why that would be considered physical violence.
For me, when I was in an abusive relationship, my ex would make me talk to him on the phone any time of the night or day. And if I didn't, that would result in more abuse. So I would have to stay up till like 2 a.m. multiple times a week, get in trouble if I fell asleep on the phone. And I had to get up at 6 a.m. for school. So I was getting like 4 hours of sleep a night, which is really terrible for you. And I don't know if he necessarily knew that and was, plotting to deprive me of sleep, but obviously he was getting something out of it if he wanted this to happen multiple times a week. But anyways, now, even 12 years later, I'm very, very protective of my sleep, and I notice a lot of anxiety come up when I'm going to be deprived of sleep, particularly if it's out of my control. Like, for example, I have to get up at 4 a.m. for a flight once in a while, And that would mean I need to go to bed at 8 p.m. And sometimes that's just not feasible. And like my partner is not ready to wind down and the lights are on and there's noise in the house. I can get really irritated and anxious, even though I logically know, hey, it's gonna be okay if you don't get 8 hours of sleep one night, right? But that seems like a really normal and it makes sense as a response to that kind of physical abuse. So if anyone else has experienced that, please let me know in the comments.
This resonated with me because recently, I mean, it didn't happen to me, but like, I just recently did a story about how this young woman was talking about how her dad was like obsessed with her and he like wanted to be like intimate and like in a relationship with her. And she was like saying that he would like text her, like he would be in the other room because they lived together and she had him. He was married, and she would be in her bedroom, he would be in his, and he would be texting her. He said one night she said one night they texted till it was like 5 a.m. and like if she dozed off or something, he was like, I'm gonna come in the room and do something bad to you, like, you know what I'm saying, threaten her with more abuse. And that was just really weird. Like he was just like, you don't like it, she like dozed off pretty much. Like it was late, or early, however you want to say. And then she fell asleep and he was like threatening her and stuff like that. Like abusers are weird. Like I like some of this, like I can't really wrap my brain around a lot of the things that they do because it's like it's just so sick. Like I would never even think to do that. But those are the games that they play, man. It's like this is crazy. And often when the women bring up like the issue, mind you, this is not a man that has been physically violent with the woman yet. He hasn't actually hit her, right? The way, what I'm saying, that usually these situations are happening usually prior to him striking her or physically harming her, right? But she is like worried, you know what I'm saying? Like, what the hell? What was that? Why did you punch that wall? Why did you yell like that? Why did you? And this is typically the response that the man has.
I would never hurt you. I can't believe you think that of me. Sorry, I just get a little scared sometimes when you start getting angry. Could you talk to your therapist about this? Like, I just can't be with someone that's constantly flinching every time I'm around. I'm trying. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make you feel bad. Well, geez, you're always making me feel like the bad guy, though. I know you're not trying to, but you are. I'm sorry. I don't think you're the bad guy. I love you. It's just hard sometimes to not, like, worry that things in the past could happen again. Okay, well, I love you too, but you need to figure that out because I'm not going to be with someone that thinks I'm a dangerous person.
That's the conversation that's being like, for sure. I know that's how it goes. No doubt about it. And men, like I've been doing a ton of videos on this recently, but like men are always trying to like play the victim, when they are the ones that are victimizing people. And, I even was talking about this recently and these gentlemen, they're not like that at all from what I can tell. But like, I even see this happen a lot of times. Like when women talk about men from the perspective of women and through the lens of like safety, a lot of men, even like good meaning, well-meaning men, get triggered by that. They're like, oh, here we go again with the male bashing and I'm like, why does your brain instantly go to she's bashing men as opposed to this is what it's like and she's just voicing her real, lived experience and also the lived experiences of most women, like why does that trigger you? And not with every man, I don't go to the instantly like, well, that's because you're that man, because some men aren't that man. We are collectively conditioned to be triggered by those like when women do that, like when women actually, say that about us, like it's baked into the system to condition men to react and respond negatively to when women say that type of stuff so that we can like push back against it, as opposed to teaching men to be receptive, you know what I mean, to a woman saying like, yo, these experiences are terrible that we go through or that I've been through or whatever the case may be, and men need to address it, you know. So nonetheless, it's whether you're a man that does it or that is trying to get away with it or cover it up, or a man that's not, it's impact over intent, you know. So that's why, like, for my good brothers out there that may, you know, reflexively want to respond in this way, where it's like your feelings are more important than her safety, or you making her feel safe, then you should like take a second and re-examine the situation and try to have some empathy, put yourself in her position and be like, how, like, my safety is paramount. Like, that trumps everything in 99.9% of the cases, you know. So maybe I should like put my feelings to the back burner and make sure that I'm supporting her, making sure that I'm doing everything in my power to ensure that she understands that she's safe around me, because I would hate for her to really feel like she wasn't safe around me. Though it may, you know, disturb me, it may hurt, you know, hurt my feelings or whatever the case may be. I'm cool with all of that. And I also know that all of this could be, you know, mitigated based on my actions moving forward. You know what I mean? So I really hope men take that approach more often than not.